Welcome in, folks. For those who do not know, my name is Guest, also known as ItsGuestGaming, and the Hitmonkey season is now upon us. So let's keep it simple. I got 10 decks for you. Well, 9 plus 1. You'll see why. In regards to Hitmonkey. Let's check it out. First and foremost, who is Hitmonkey? What is Hitmonkey? Where is Hitmonkey? Why is Hitmonkey? He's a 2-cost, 0 power that on reveal gains +2 power for each other card you played this turn. Let me say first and foremost, this card is most likely why the Quinjet nerf happened. Because think about that for a second with 0-cost stones. Cool? Now, with that said, how can we take advantage of that? Because his whole kit screams later, looking for more energy to play later and have him be played as late as possible, if not multiple times in the game. So I've got a couple of decks here that can help showcase that. First up is the Bouncin Barrel of Monkeys. This is a pretty straightforward beast bounce style deck. You're looking to play, ideally, Hitmonkey plus multiple other cards simultaneously, bring those cards back to your hand, and have them lay down back on the battlefield again. So when you have generator cards like Maria Hill and Hood giving more 1-cost cards into your hand, those are more opportunities to play cards during those turns to ramp up Angela and Bishop, 2 of the MVPs who you'll see a lot probably during the next couple of weeks. Bass is here because every single card is going to remain neutral or benefit from Bass being played, because you don't have to worry about America Chavez, who's a guaranteed pull, so you know going into turn 5 exactly what you have left for the next 2 turns. And I'm throwing in the Collector as well because we haven't seen enough love for him, and we see Angela and Bishop having a lot of opportunity to ramp, so he has a chance to shine without Devil Dino. Next up, I'm calling this Snappin at the Monkeys. This is it's a Thanos deck. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's a lot of 1-cost stones. You want those stones to become stronger, so we have pieces like Okoye in there to help ramp up everything in the deck, so she's going to have a larger impact on the entire game as you're pulling more stones out that have been ramped up. Valkyrie also is going to be an MVP this season. Get ready to see her quite a few times, as she's also a great counter to some of the top decks in the game. I'm looking at you, Red Skull. So be ready to see a lot of her as well. So ongoing effects are going to be stronger in the next few weeks. So this is a Blue Marvel, Khazar, build up and ramp, and then look to get that Hitmonkey down ideally twice. So you can end up delivering through the Khazar, Blue Marvel, Zoo series, or you can go through the one Beast, I didn't put Falcon in here, Beast and Hitmonkey, get it down twice, bring it on back, get him on down again, ramp up of him, so you could still end up with a 2-12 by the end of Hitmonkey's final turn if you play everything down right. Thanos, I feel like, is not going to get used in this deck, but all of those stones are, so let's take advantage of them if we can and clear up some board space with Carnage. But if you're newer into the game, don't worry. This is the variation that I'm calling Series 2 Monkeys at the Zoo. So starting from Series 2, if you're newer into the game and just need a little bit more time to get some of these big shiny toys, it's okay. Hitmonkey is still relevant. You're looking at characters like Nightcrawler, who you can play down onto Angela and then move over to give another ramp up onto Angela. Sunspot's going to continue to grow and grow and grow as well. Protect everybody with armor, ramp up that Angela and Bishop again, and then give everybody a little bit of overall love. The biggest play in here is probably going to be that Elektra, because if you keep an eye on which one drops there, dropping and when, that could be a huge 6, 7, 8 power swing within one card. Elektra is very underrated in this game, and in the next season in particular, be ready to use her as a very strong counter. We mentioned the Devil Dino card being forgotten because of Collector, but I think he actually has a place here with Hitmonkey as well. The most common synergy you're going to see with Hitmonkey is going to be Mysterio, because Mysterio counts as 3 cards being played, all for only 2 cost. So each one of those is going to bring up Hitmonkey, whether they're an illusion or the original Mysterio. So let's capitalize on the fact that the board's going to be a little bit clogged, and let's double up the size of our hand. You've got some clogging pieces like Titania on there, bringing down the cost with Quinjet, and then Moon Girl everything. You could skip turn 6, skip turn 5 and play down a couple of She-Hulks on the final swing, which is a very popular strategy. And then on top of that, you could have a lot of other 1-drops, if not a couple of Hitmonkeys at the same time. It's got a lot of potential. but I think it's going to be needing tweaking depending on when we get cards back in our hand to ramp up Devil Dino. So this one's probably going to take a little bit of tweaking, but I wanted to throw this combination out there because I do see potential, even if you have to play Hitmonkey down on either turn 3 or 4. To the notion of Mysterio, I think there's a whole deck focused on just him exclusively and doubling up the effects of Hitmonkey, Mysterio, Bishop, Angela, etc. I'm throwing Goose in here, who I also think is an MVP of this season, preventing those large cards from being played down so you can have those super ramped up smaller cost cards hold their weight even further and more so. Crossbones I also think fits in well here as we're trying to take advantage of Zabu for either Moon Girl and or Crossbones and have some nice big high power swings very early on. We put Beast back in here to try to ramp up that Hitmonkey if possible, or even move over that Angela if we absolutely need to and ramp her up separately in combination with Bast and Hood. Bast, big MVP, get ready to use him a lot, but I think you're starting to see who the MVPs of this season with Hitmonkey in particular are, but there's one we haven't mentioned yet. Wasp is going to play in very big this season because she's 0 cost. We have featured locations that are premiering this season that are going to utilize her ability even further and more so. And 0 cost cards, therefore, mean lots of cards being played all on one turn, even if it's an earlier turn. So let's take advantage of all of them. Thor is going to have a presence this season. I contemplated Lockjaw because that's its own dynamic. I just don't see that being as successful here because this one is going to be more focused on very strategic placements for Angela in particular. So you don't necessarily want your Valkyrie to come out too early. You want to have that Angela ramp up as high as possible, but we're throwing in the Luke Cage to help counter that just a tad anyway. So if you want to throw in Lockjaw into Thith and Thor, feel free. I just thought the name was fun. But then you put in Jane Foster's Thor, put it all together, and you've got a whole bunch of 0 cost cards with a flurry on turn 6, plus all the 1 costs. So I think it has a lot of potential with Thor. You let me know how it goes. Tell me down in the comments. We have to play a Mr. Negative deck. He has 0 power. We're gonna try to get him out at 0 power with 2 already built into him. So let's try to flip him and try to throw him out there. This is basically a semi-standard Mr. Negative shell. A lot can be flexed within here, but I personally love Magic in a Mr. Negative deck. Not a lot of people do. Let that be your flex play if you're going to take anything out. But otherwise, you're looking with both Psylocke and Zabu trying to get out Mr. Negative as early as possible. That Wolfsbane can ramp up for being only 1 power to be as high as 9-11 even if you time it out right. It's got a lot of huge final turn swing, which is exactly what Hitmonkey wants. There's also a riskier version of doing that. I'm calling this the Mrs. Negafoster because it has that Jane Foster's play in there. And this is a little bit tricky to pull off, I will say, but Luke Cage helps make it a little better. You've got Bast in there to help level out the playing field in the earlier hands, get some of that extra power out there, just in case if you don't pull that Mr. Negative. But when you do, you're trying to get out Jane Foster's Thor additionally to pull out all of the 0s that are left in the deck. So that Iron Man, that's 5-0, will flip to an 0-5, and then you have Jane Foster's Thor pull him, as well as Arnim Zola, Mystique, Ironheart, etc., whatever you haven't pulled as of yet, until your hand is essentially full. I'm throwing in Arnim Zola here because I think, keyword, I think there could be a very unique synergy depending on how the on-reveal of Hitmonkey goes, where if we can play this out downright and get Arnim Zola to copy the Hitmonkeys multiple times, it might copy multiple hands of play. So say you play 5 cards on that turn 6, and Arnim Zola, the 2 Hitmonkeys had the first 4-5 cards, plus the following 5 cards. This is the one I'm probably most excited to try because it could be unnecessarily broken. I've said MVPs a couple of times. This is not necessarily a deck. You could probably try it as a deck. If you go ahead, let me know how it works. I might try it just for fun, but I want this one known that these are the MVP cards, in my opinion, for the Hitmonkey season. Wasp, the Hood, Bast, Angela, Hitmonkey, Goose, Mysterio, Bishop, Kazar, Moon Girl, Valkyrie, and America Chavez. I think that these cards are probably the most important cards this season. If you disagree with me, let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear what kind of constructions you're able to build featuring Hitmonkey. But what if you don't get the season pass? What if you just see a flurry of Hitmonkeys and you want to combat it? That's going to be our 10th deck today, is don't hit the monkey. Just don't hit him. This is a counter deck. And especially in the first week of the season, you're probably going to see a lot of Hitmonkey being played. If you want to try to climb quickly and avoid a lot of that contrast, this might be the type of deck for you. It is a Sandman-focused deck. Sandman obviously restricting each side of the battlefield to only playing one card at a time. Therefore, those later turn 5 and 6 plays that we just said we're looking to try to play Hitmonkey, you're restricting them as much as possible. I have also the Hood and Electro as possible options for Viper to send on over, because then Electro can restrict only their side of the battlefield. The Hood is just a negative card to clog their side of the battlefield, which, unless if they're playing a bounce type, they're still going to have to put bounce and then play out as a card of negative power on their side of the battlefield. So I'm looking to do that, and Professor X in particular. I like having the option here of Professor X or Sandman on turn 5, depending on what you need, plus Arrow. Professor X is going to lock down those lanes that have those Mysterios looking to come on down and restrict it to only one illusion and Mysterio instead of 2. Sandman obviously restricting the cards, as we said. Captain Marvel to help hit those far locations and take over for extra power. Arrow is also an option here because you're ideally trying to manipulate only one card at a time, typically on turn 5, because if you clog a lane intentionally, you can restrict also the same way that Professor X does from seeing those large Mysterios come onto the battlefield. Follow it up with Dr. Doom and Magneto as a turn 6 play. If you're locked in under that Sandman or Electro restriction, that's a ton of power, moving cards around and spreading the power out so that way you can stay on top of the game and confuse your opponent and block them from doing the combinations that they are trying to scale up and do. This is what I think is going to be a pretty strong counter to the Hitmonkey season, and I hope it helps you out too. I think Hitmonkey is going to bring some unique synergies. He's going to have his own style of deck in the meta of this month. And to me, without even playing him, he seems like a good 8 out of 10. He seems like a pretty good B-level card, which, as we saw with MODOK, is exactly kind of what we want. It's the not a meta-breaking card, but a card that synergizes with other current decks. He doesn't create a style all by himself. He just mixes in and tweaks current styles to create new styles of deck. I like this card a lot. I'm going to be getting the Season Pass, and I cannot wait to be testing all of these decks live on Twitch. If you enjoyed today's video, hit that like button and subscribe down below, and I'll see you next time. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. For those who do not know, my name is Guest, also known as ItsGuestGaming. Happy gaming.